Jacko, great to see you. Thanks so much for your time as always. You're so generous with it. We're here again at the MCG. We've got your dad's stand up there looking magnificent. What's it like for you now being here and talking as you have done, as always, so beautifully about your dad?
Well, firstly, hello Mel, and thank you for having me. I guess I've got so many happy memories always being here at the MCG, and especially during the Boxing Day test. Like, I especially remember being when I was really, really young. I was always hiding somewhere under the ground with my DS or Game Boy, always just either playing Mario Kart or some sort of Pokemon game. And then I always remember hearing a really loud noise, and I'd look at the TV and it was always Dad. Like, they're always the memories I can remember. And it was just so cool to see, especially my dad grow throughout his entire career, and as I got older as a player, then into like a commentary role, and then into sort of this figure that the current players would look up to for advice. And I was so grateful that I've got so many happy memories, especially at the MCG, of Dad.
When do you think you realised that your dad was a megastar?
I always knew Dad was massive, but I never let that get to me because I always wanted to look at Dad as Dad. So I think when he started coming out with his book and documentaries and going on all these tours after he retired, I sort of got to step back and look at him not as like a cricketer, but as somebody that is just completely transcended his sport.
You've always referred to him as your best mate, haven't you?
Yeah, we've always been and will always be best mates. And I'm so lucky that I got to go to the Dunhill with him, which is a golf tournament over in Scotland. I would be sort of caddy. I didn't know how to play golf and didn't know how to read the yardage and had no advice for him, but he just wanted me to be there with him and I wanted to be there with him. And so he would always find a way to make it work.
It can't be easy though. How are you three going?
We're good. We try not to be, obviously Christmas Day and Boxing Day is sad, and it's sad looking at the stand and sad looking at the statue and wishing he was still here. But I think me, Brooke and Summer really, and everybody around him, really just want to celebrate his life now. And I never saw Dad sad, ever. Like, I never saw him cry, so I would never know, like, I wouldn't expect him to think that I should cry just because I'm sad or to cry because he's not here. I think he'd always want me to be strong and always want me to be positive. So I think especially me, Brooke and Summer, that's what we're trying to do.
Did he ever try and teach you how to bowl?
Of course.
Anything cricket? Did it take?
Dad was never the dad that would say, all right, Jackson, here's a cricket ball. We're going to bowl 100 overs. You're going to bowl leg spin and this. He honestly would just want to see me happy. But there was actually one moment in COVID in 2020 when we went down to a local cricket nets, and me and Dad, we took maybe 20 cricket balls and we just bowled for about 3-4 hours. And I said, all right, Dad, I want you from the start, teach me like I've never bowled leg spin before. I want you to try and get me to bowl leg spin. And we actually started to form like a little crowd because people would walk past with their dogs and they'd go, is that Shane? And they would connect the dots. And one thing I didn't realise is how hard it actually is to do. How you were able to spin your wrist so much and your shoulder and your feet all at the same time just to make the ball spin from here to here was amazing. But I've got a lot of memories of Dad trying to teach me leg spin, but he never forced me to do it.
He was a genius.
He was a genius. He was the pinnacle.
What is his legacy, I guess, for his family and his friends?
Well, I think if you'd had asked me that question before he had passed, I'm a bit biased, but I would have said greatest ever Australian athlete, a record breaker. Probably no one will ever get that record. Changed the game and did so much for the sport of cricket. He made it fun, he made it entertaining. But since the news of his passing, and especially for the first 6 months that after he'd passed, hospitals, GPs, the media, they actually came up with the term the halo effect. And the halo effect was people going into their hospitals and GPs getting their hearts checked just because they heard of the news of Dad's passing. And especially since we've launched the legacy, I would say that his legacy is now saving lives, and we've managed to turn a negative into a positive, and to see so many people still lining up today just to get their hearts checked for Dad and for their friends and family is pretty special. And we know for a fact that there is a handful of lives that we have saved.
He was a generous man, wasn't he? And most people wouldn't have known half the stuff he did.
They wouldn't. He was so generous with his time and with his energy, and even in passing, he's generous with his name and his image and his reputation in saving lives. Like having the Shane Warne stand there, having his statue, having us here, having us talking about him, having the machines here. I think it just shows how many people still want to remember him and to how many people still think he's still here.
We all feel his presence. We all loved Warne, but none more so than you and your siblings and, of course, your whole family. And we're so grateful that, as always, you're so generous with your time, keep doing what you're doing, and we thank you for it. And thanks for talking to us, Jacko.
Thank you, Mel. Always we'll talk about Dad, and thank you for having me.